The stars in the outer veil sector looked the same as they had for thousands of years. Dead, silent, empty. Commander Vrenix stood on the bridge of his scout ship. His 4 arms crossed as he reviewed the sector maps. The Valdran Empire had sent his team here to survey new territories for expansion, but this region held nothing of value. Ancient records marked it as lifeless. His navigator interrupted his thoughts. "Commander, we're detecting energy signatures from System 447. Vrenix turned his reptilian head sharply. "That's impossible. System 447 has been dead for 8,000 years. Check your instruments." The navigator ran the scan 3 more times. Each time, the results showed the same thing. Power readings, heat signatures, electromagnetic emissions consistent with advanced technology. Vrenix felt his chest tighten. Something was very wrong. "Take us closer," he ordered. "Battle stations. This could be a trap." The scout ship moved through the dark space towards System 447. As they approached, the view screen lit up with something that made Vrenix's blood run cold. 3 planets glowed with city lights. Dozens of space stations orbited in organized patterns. Ships moved between them in steady streams of traffic. This wasn't a dead system. This was a thriving civilization. "How many life signs?" Vrenix demanded. "Scanning now, Commander." Initial readings show 12 billion sentient beings across the system. 12 billion. Vrenix couldn't process it. The Valdran Empire had explored this entire region centuries ago. Their records clearly stated that System 447 suffered a stellar anomaly that made it uninhabitable. Every survey team had confirmed it. The system appeared dead from long-range scans. Yet here, hidden behind some kind of sophisticated shield, existed a massive civilization that the Empire knew nothing about. "Identify the species," Vrenix said. "Unknown, Commander. They don't match any records in our database." An unknown species. An unknown civilization, existing in a system that should be impossible to inhabit. Vrenix knew he needed to report this immediately, but first he needed information. "Intercept one of their smaller vessels. I want to know who they are." The scout ship moved to intercept a medium-sized cargo vessel traveling between 2 space stations. When the Valdran ship appeared beside it, the cargo vessel simply stopped. No weapons fire. No attempt to flee. It just waited. Vrenix opened a communication channel. "Unidentified vessel. You are in territory claimed by the Valdran Empire. Identify yourself immediately." There was a pause. Then a voice came through the speakers speaking broken but understandable Valdran common tongue. "Hello there. I'm Dohyun. I pilot this cargo ship. Is there a problem?" The casualness of the response shocked Vrenix. This pilot acted like meeting an Imperial warship was a normal daily event. "You speak our language?" "A little bit," Dohyun replied. "We found some old Valdran communication buoys floating in space years ago. We studied the language from those. Are you here for trade?" "Trade?" Vrenix struggled to maintain his composure. "What species are you? What civilization is this?" "We're human," Dohyun said simply. "This is our home. System 447, though we call it the Taiyang system. Why do you seem so surprised?" "Because our records state this system is uninhabitable," Vrenix said. "How long have you been here?" Another pause. "We've always been here as far as our history tells us. At least 20,000 years according to our oldest records. Did your empire not know about us?" 20,000 years. Vrenix felt dizzy. The Valdran Empire itself was only 10,000 years old. These humans claimed to have existed here twice as long. "You will accompany us to our flagship. Prepare to be boarded." "Sure," Dohyun said. "I was just hauling water recyclers anyway. Nothing urgent." Within an hour, Dohyun stood in the docking bay of the Valdran flagship. Vrenix watched through the security cameras as the human emerged from his ship. Dohyun was tall and thin, standing on 2 legs with 2 arms. His skin was a light brown color and black hair covered the top of his head. He wore a simple work uniform and carried a data pad under one arm. He looked around the docking bay with clear curiosity but no fear. When guards escorted him to the interrogation room, Dohyun sat down calmly and smiled at Vrenix. "Your ship is impressive. Much bigger than anything we build." Vrenix ignored the comment. "I am Commander Vrenix of the Valdran Imperial Survey Fleet. You will answer my questions truthfully." "Of course," Dohyun said. "I'm happy to help, though I should mention that my government will probably want to meet with yours officially. This seems like a big deal." Your government will do what the Empire commands, Vrennick said coldly. Now explain how you survive in this system. Our instruments detect a stellar anomaly that should make all life impossible. Do-hyun nodded. Oh, you mean the shield? Yes, our ancestors built that about 12,000 years ago. It makes the star look unstable from outside, but inside the system, everything is normal. It was meant to hide us. Hide you from what? From a galactic catastrophe that our records call the collapse, Do-hyun explained. Our ancestors were space travelers like you. When the collapse started destroying civilizations across the galaxy, they came here and built the shield to protect themselves. They wanted to wait until the danger passed before rejoining the wider galaxy. Vrennick studied the human carefully. Either Do-hyun was an excellent liar, or he genuinely believed what he was saying. You expect me to believe humans have technology capable of disguising an entire star system? Well, yes, Do-hyun said. I'm not a scientist, so I don't understand exactly how it works. But I've seen the shield generators. They're massive installations on the edge of the system. We maintain them regularly. He pulled up something on his datapad. Here, I can show you maintenance schedules if you want. Before Vrennick could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the ship. The door to the interrogation room slid open, and a senior officer entered. Commander Grand Admiral Thexus is entering the system with the main battle fleet. He demands to see the human immediately. Vrennick felt his stomach drop. Grand Admiral Thexus commanded the entire Valdrin military. He was known for his ruthless efficiency and absolute loyalty to the Emperor. If Thexus viewed the humans as a threat, he would not hesitate to destroy them. Do-hyun seemed to sense the tension in the room. Is something wrong? You're about to meet someone very important, Vrennick said. I suggest you choose your words carefully. An hour later, Do-hyun stood in the main conference room of the flagship. Grand Admiral Thexus sat at the head of a long table, his forearms folded across his chest. His scales were a deep red color, marked with scars from decades of military service. His eyes studied Do-hyun with the cold calculation of a predator examining prey. So, Thexus said slowly, you are human. Yes, sir, Do-hyun replied politely. And you claim your species has lived in this system for 20,000 years. According to our historical records, yes, Thexus leaned forward. I find that very difficult to believe. The Valdrin Empire has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have explored every corner of known space, yet somehow we never discovered a civilization of 12 billion beings living in our own territory. His voice grew harder. That seems impossible unless you are lying. Do-hyun met the Admiral's gaze without flinching. I understand your confusion, sir, but I'm telling you the truth. We've been here all along. Your people just couldn't see us because of the shield. From outside, the system looks dead and uninhabitable. That was the whole point. Then why reveal yourselves now? Thexus demanded. We didn't, Do-hyun said. You found us. Your ship came inside the shield perimeter and saw what was really here. We weren't trying to hide from you specifically. We were hiding from the collapse and we just never turned the shield off. Thexus stood up, his full height towering over the human. You will take us to your leaders. The Empire will decide what to do with your people. You exist in Imperial territory, which means you are now subjects of the Empire. Do-hyun's expression became serious for the first time. With respect, Admiral, we don't recognize the Empire's claim to this system. We were here long before your Empire existed. This is our home. We're happy to talk about diplomatic relations, but we're not going to surrender our sovereignty. The room fell silent. No one spoke to Grand Admiral Thexus that way. Vrennick held his breath, certain that the Admiral would order Do-hyun executed on the spot. Instead, Thexus smiled. It was not a friendly smile. How interesting. You think you have a choice in this matter? He gestured to the view screen which showed the Valdrin battle fleet assembling outside the system. Hundreds of warships, enough firepower to destroy planets. You have 12 billion people living in this system. I have the weapons to kill them all. I suggest you reconsider your position. Do-hyun looked at the fleet display. For a moment, fear flashed across his face. Then he took a deep breath. I need to contact my government. They should know what's happening. Indeed they should. Thexus agreed, because very soon they will have to make a choice. Submit to the Empire or face the consequences. Hajun stood before a room full of scientists and military leaders from both human and Valdrin civilizations. The young astrophysicist was nervous, but his data was too important to ignore. Behind him, a holographic display showed spatial readings from the past 3 months. The evidence is clear, Hajun said, his voice gaining strength as he spoke. The collapse is returning. We detected the first dimensional fractures 6 weeks ago in Sector 7. Since then, the fractures have been spreading at an accelerating rate. He changed the display to show a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked the locations of confirmed fractures. There were hundreds of them, forming a pattern that moved steadily inward toward the core systems, toward both human and Valdran territory. At the current rate of expansion, the fractures will reach the outer Valdran colonies in 4 months. They will reach the human system in 6 months. After that, the cascade will accelerate. Within a year, the entire galaxy will be affected. Grand Admiral Thexus studied the display carefully. What causes these fractures? Dr. Hyunwoo stepped forward. Our ancient records suggest the collapse is a natural phenomenon, similar to an earthquake but on a cosmic scale. The fabric of space-time becomes unstable in tiers. When a tier occurs near a star, the star collapses. Planets break apart. Everything in the system is destroyed. A Valdran scientist named Melchris raised one of his 4 arms. How did the collapse stop the first time? Why did it end 8,000 years ago? We don't know, Dr. Hyunwoo admitted. Our records from that time are incomplete. The collapse simply stopped on its own, but we can't assume it will stop again. We need to find a way to prevent it. Jiwon looked at Hajun. Is there anything we can do? Hajun nodded. Yes. The stellar shield technology that protects our system doesn't just hide us from view. It stabilizes the space-time around our star. If we could build similar stabilization nodes throughout the affected regions, we might be able to prevent the fractures from spreading. How many nodes would we need? Thexus asked. Thousands, Hajun said. We would need to place them in every star system at risk. It would be the largest construction project in galactic history. Melchris examined the technical specifications. This is advanced technology. Even working together, humans and Valdran would need months to build enough nodes. Then we start immediately, Jiwon said firmly. We don't have time to waste, Thexus agreed. I will contact the Emperor and request authorization to begin a joint project. But convincing Emperor Draxion proved difficult. The ancient ruler refused to believe the threat was real. This is a human trick, he insisted during a holo conference. They fabricate this collapse story to force us to work with them. I will not fall for it. Your Majesty, our own scientists have confirmed the spatial anomalies, Thexus argued. This threat is real. If we don't act, both our civilizations will be destroyed. Then we will deal with it ourselves, Draxion said. The Empire does not need human help. The conference ended with no agreement. Thexus sat in his command center, frustrated and worried. They were running out of time, and the Emperor's pride was going to kill them all. Renix entered the room. Admiral, I may have a solution. There are moderate elements in the Imperial government who don't agree with the Emperor. Several planetary governors, military commanders, and scientists who believe we should work with the humans. If we can convince them to support the project, we can begin construction even without the Emperor's approval. That would be mutiny, Thexus said. Yes, Vrenix agreed, but it would also save billions of lives. Thexus made his decision. Contact the moderates. Tell them we're moving forward with the project. Anyone who wants to help is welcome. Anyone who opposes us can report to the Emperor. Over the next week, ships from dozens of Valdran worlds joined the project. Many commanders chose to follow Thexus rather than the Emperor. They brought construction vessels, resources, and personnel. Combined with human forces, they began building the stabilization nodes, but not everyone supported the alliance. General Corvus, who had been reassigned to command a battle fleet in a remote sector, saw an opportunity. He gathered loyal forces and issued a proclamation. The alliance between humans and Valdran was treason against the Empire. He would restore Imperial honor by destroying the human system. Corvus led his fleet toward the human system, ready to attack. When Captain Mirai detected his approach, she immediately mobilized the defense forces. All ships to battle stations. This is not a drill. Do-hyun, who had been helping coordinate supply runs between construction sites, volunteered to help stop Corvus. I know the system better than anyone. Let me lead a team to sabotage his fleet before he can attack. Mirai considered the proposal. It was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but they couldn't afford a battle right now. Every ship was needed for the construction project. All right, but you'll need help. I'm assigning you a team. The team included Soman, the young engineer who had befriended Vrenix. She knew Valdrin ship systems inside and out. Vrenix himself volunteered, using his insider knowledge of Imperial military procedures. A few human special forces soldiers rounded out the group. They took a small, fast ship and intercepted Corvus's fleet, while it was still several days from the human system. Using forged Imperial credentials that Vrenix provided, they docked with Corvus's flagship claiming to be delivering urgent supplies. Once aboard, they split up. Salman headed to engineering to sabotage the ship's power systems. Vrenix went to the command center to access the navigation computers. Do-hyun and the soldiers created diversions to keep the crew distracted. Everything went smoothly until an alarm sounded. Someone had discovered the sabotage. Guards rushed toward engineering. Salman worked frantically to finish her task, her hands flying over the control panels. Come on, she muttered. Just a few more seconds. Guards burst into the engineering bay. Stop, don't move. Salman hit the final command and smiled. Too late. The ship's power systems shut down. Emergency lights flickered on. All across the fleet, the same thing happened. Ships went dark as their power cores deactivated. Weapon systems failed. Engines stopped. The entire fleet was dead in space. Corvus himself confronted the team in the flagship's docking bay as they tried to escape. The old general stood with a weapon in each of his 4 hands. You dare sabotage an Imperial fleet? I will execute you myself. Do-hyun stepped forward. General, there's a dimensional fracture forming in this sector. If you stay here, your entire fleet will be destroyed. We just saved your life. Lies. Corvus roared. There is no fracture. There is no collapse. There is only the Empire and those who defy it. Vrenix activated a portable scanner and showed Corvus the readings. Look at the data yourself. The fracture will reach this location in 3 hours. If your ships don't move, you'll all die. Corvus looked at the scanner. For a moment, doubt crossed his face. Then his expression hardened. Even if this is true, I will not abandon my mission. The Empire does not surrender. Then you're a fool, Vrenix said sadly. A younger Valdrin officer stepped forward.
General, I believe them.
We should evacuate the fleet. Traitor! Corvus turned his weapons on the officer. The officer moved faster. He fired first, his shot striking Corvus in the chest. The old general fell, surprise on his face. He tried to speak, but no words came. Within moments, he was dead. The officer looked at the body of his former commander, his hands shaking. I'm sorry, General, but I will not die for your pride. He turned to Do-hyun's team. I am Lieutenant Corvin. I'm taking command of this fleet. Help us restore power, and we'll evacuate this sector. Working together, they managed to restart enough systems to move the ships. The fleet escaped just as the dimensional fracture tore through the space where they had been. 3 ships that couldn't restart in time were destroyed, ripped apart by the fracture. The survivors joined the alliance. Lieutenant Corvin brought his entire fleet to support the construction project. With the additional resources, work accelerated dramatically. Over the following weeks, thousands of stabilization nodes were constructed and deployed. Human and Valdrin crews worked side by side, racing against time. The fractures continued to spread, getting closer each day. Hajun coordinated the placement of nodes, calculating the optimal positions to create a stable network. Melchris led the Valdrin engineering teams, adapting human shield technology to work with Imperial power systems. Dr. Hyunwoo and other scientists monitored the fractures, tracking their movement and predicting where they would appear next. But the project suffered setbacks. A construction ship was destroyed when a fracture appeared without warning. A node facility collapsed during assembly, killing dozens of workers. Supply lines struggled to keep up with demand, and always the fractures came closer. Finally, after 2 months of constant work, the network was complete. Thousands of nodes spread across hundreds of star systems, ready to activate. But there was a problem. The network isn't stable, Hajun reported during a command meeting. Some of the nodes aren't producing enough power. If we activate the network now, it might collapse. Which nodes are weak? Ji-won asked. Hajun highlighted them on the display. The 7. They're in the most dangerous regions where the fractures are strongest. The radiation is interfering with their power cores. The central planet of the Taeyang system was called Taeyang Prime by its inhabitants. From orbit, it looked like any other developed world. Cities stretched across continents. Lights glowed in organized patterns. Ships moved in and out of the atmosphere in steady streams. Commander Vrenix stood beside Do-hyun in the shuttle as they descended toward the capital city. Grand Admiral Thexus had agreed to meet with human leadership before making any military decisions. Vrennick suspected the admiral simply wanted to assess their capabilities before crushing them. The Valdran battle fleet remained in orbit, weapons ready. "That's the capital below," Do-hyun said, pointing at a massive city that sprawled along a coastline. "We call it Haven. About 40 million people live there." Vrennick studied the city carefully. The architecture was different from Valdran design. Humans built tall, slender towers that seemed to reach for the sky. Gardens covered many of the buildings. The streets were organized in efficient grids. Everything looked clean and well-maintained. "Your people built all of this while hiding from the galaxy?" Vrennick asked. "We didn't think of it as hiding," Do-hyun said. "We thought of it as surviving. Our ancestors made a choice to protect themselves. They knew they might miss out on contact with other civilizations, but they decided safety was more important." The shuttle landed at a government complex in the city center. Armed guards waited at the landing pad, but they kept their weapons lowered. A woman in formal robes approached as Do-hyun and the Valdran delegation exited the shuttle. "Welcome to Taeyang Prime," the woman said in perfect Valdran common tongue. "I am Jiwon, council leader of the Unified Human Worlds. We are pleased to meet you, though we wish the circumstances were less tense." Jiwon appeared to be in her 60s, with gray hair pulled back in a neat style. Her dark eyes showed intelligence and calm strength. She stood straight despite her age, and her voice carried natural authority. Vrennick immediately recognized her as someone who had led for many years. Grand Admiral Thexus stepped forward. "I am Grand Admiral Thexus of the Valdran Empire. Your people exist in Imperial territory. We need to discuss the terms of your integration into the Empire." Jiwon smiled politely. "I believe there has been a misunderstanding, Admiral. This system does not belong to your empire. It belongs to humanity. We have lived here for over 20,000 years. Your empire is barely half that age." "Age of occupation is irrelevant," Thexus said. "The empire claims all space in this region. You will submit or you will be removed." "I see," Jiwon said calmly. "Before you make any final decisions, Admiral, would you like to see our history? We maintain extensive records. Perhaps understanding our past will help you understand our present." Thexus considered this. "Very well. Show me your records. Prove your claims." Jiwon led them through the government complex to a large elevator that descended deep underground. The trip took several minutes. When the doors finally opened, they emerged into an enormous chamber carved from solid rock. The space stretched for hundreds of meters in every direction. Shelves lined the walls filled with data crystals, old books, and technological archives. "This is the Grand Archive," Jiwon explained. "We store all of human history here. Our oldest records date back 23,000 years. An elderly man approached them. He had white hair and wore simple scholar robes. His face showed the deep lines of someone who had spent decades studying. "I am Dr. Hyunwoo, Chief Archivist. I can answer any questions about our history." "Show us your oldest records," Thexus demanded. Dr. Hyunwoo led them to a display terminal and activated a holographic projection. Images appeared in the air, showing ancient text and diagrams. "This is from the first expansion," he explained. 23,000 years ago, humanity was a spacefaring civilization. We had spread across many star systems. We had built a great society. The hologram changed, showing images of massive space stations and thriving colonies. Then something terrible happened. We detected anomalies in the fabric of space itself. Stars began to collapse without warning. Planets tore apart. Entire systems vanished into dimensional fractures. We called it the collapse. Vrennick watched the images with growing unease. The destruction shown in these records was catastrophic. Whole civilizations destroyed in moments. Our scientists studied the collapse and realized it would eventually consume the entire galaxy. Dr. Hyunwoo continued. They predicted it would take thousands of years, but the end result would be total destruction. So humanity made a desperate decision. We gathered our people from all our colonies and brought them here, to this system. Then we built the stellar shield. The hologram showed the construction of massive installations around the star. The shield technology was our greatest achievement. It creates a field that makes the system appear unstable from outside, while keeping everything normal inside. We activated it and went silent, hoping to wait out the collapse. But the collapse never ended? Vrennick asked. Actually, it did, Dr. Hyunwoo said. About 8,000 years ago, the dimensional fractures stabilized on their own. The galaxy became safe again. By that time, however, new civilizations had risen. Your empire, for example. We detected your expansion but decided to remain hidden. We had been isolated for so long we weren't sure how you would react to finding us. Thexis studied the records carefully. This could all be fabricated. How do we know these records are genuine? You're welcome to have your scientists examine them, Jiwan said. We have nothing to hide. We're simply telling you our story. Over the next 3 days, Valdrin research teams studied the human archives. They examined the data crystals using advanced dating techniques. They analyzed the construction of the underground facility. They reviewed thousands of documents and images. Every test confirmed the same conclusion. The records were authentic. The humans had indeed lived in this system for over 20,000 years. But what shocked the Valdrin researchers even more was what they discovered about human technology. A team of engineers visited a human shipyard and found construction methods that matched Valdrin capabilities. In some areas, human technology exceeded Imperial standards. Vrenix toured a human space station with a young engineer named Soman. She explained their power systems, which used quantum-locked energy cores that never needed refueling. She showed him their artificial gravity systems, which worked without rotation. She demonstrated their construction materials, which had survived for thousands of years without decay. How did you develop all of this while isolated? Vrenix asked. Soman smiled. We had 20,000 years and nowhere else to go. We couldn't expand to new systems because of the shield, so we focused on perfecting what we had. We learned to build things that lasted. We learned to use energy efficiently. We had to, because we only had the resources in this system to work with. That evening, Vrenix reported his findings to Grand Admiral Thexis. The Admiral listened in silence as Vrenix explained what the research teams had discovered. Human technology was sophisticated. Their population was large. Their society was stable and well-organized. Conquering them would be possible, but it would be costly. What do you recommend, Commander? Thexis asked. I recommend we negotiate, Vrenix said carefully. These people are not savages. They are a legitimate civilization with technology equal to our own. Military action would result in massive casualties on both sides. Thexis nodded slowly. I have been considering the same thing. However, the Emperor will not accept the existence of an independent human state in Imperial territory. He will demand submission. Then perhaps we need to change how we think about territory, Vrenix suggested. The humans were here before the Empire existed. Perhaps they have a legitimate claim. Careful, Commander, Thexis warned. Such thoughts border on treason. Before Vrenix could respond, an alarm sounded on his communication device. A message from the fleet. Admiral, we're detecting a transmission from the Imperial homeworld. The Emperor has been informed of the situation. He is issuing direct orders. Thexis accessed the message and read it. His expression darkened. The Emperor has ordered us to demand immediate human submission. If they refuse, we are to demonstrate Imperial power by destroying one of their smaller settlements. He wants to show them the cost of defiance. Vrenix felt sick. Admiral, that would be mass murder. Those settlements have millions of people. I am aware, Thexis said quietly. He stood and looked out the window at the human city below. Lights glowed peacefully in the darkness. People lived their lives down there, unaware of the threat hanging over them. The next morning, Thexis met with Jiwan in a formal conference room. Dohyun stood beside Jiwan as a witness. Vrenix stood beside Thexis, dreading what was about to happen. I have received orders from the Emperor, Thexis said formally. He demands that humanity submit to Imperial rule. You will dissolve your government and accept Imperial governors. You will integrate your military forces into the Imperial fleet. You will pay tribute to the Empire. Jiwan listened calmly. And if we refuse? Then the Emperor has ordered me to destroy one of your settlements as a demonstration of Imperial power, Thexis said. His voice was flat, emotionless. I am to continue destroying settlements until you submit. The news spread through the Valdrin Empire like wildfire. An unknown civilization of 12 billion humans existed in Imperial territory. They possessed advanced technology. They refused to submit to Imperial authority. The Emperor demanded their surrender or destruction. Across hundreds of Valdrin worlds, people debated what should happen. Some believed the Empire should crush this upstart species that dared to defy Imperial will. Others questioned whether military action was necessary. Many wondered if the Empire, had the right to demand submission from people who had lived in their system for 20,000 years. On the imperial homeworld of Valdros Prime, Emperor Draxion sat on his throne and fumed. He had ruled for 300 years, and no one had ever challenged imperial authority like this. The humans needed to be taught a lesson. He sent orders to Grand Admiral Thexus, make an example of them. But in the human system, G1 addressed her people through a holographic broadcast that reached every world and station. "Fellow humans," she said calmly, "we face a difficult moment in our history. The Valdran Empire demands we surrender our freedom. They threaten to destroy us if we refuse." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We are a peaceful people. We have lived in isolation for thousands of years, bothering no one. We seek no conflict with the Empire. But we will not abandon our sovereignty. Our ancestors sacrificed everything to keep us safe and free. We will honor that sacrifice. Therefore, I propose that we offer the Empire a compromise. We will agree to a mutual non-aggression pact. We will not interfere in imperial affairs, and they will not interfere in ours. We will open diplomatic relations and discuss trade agreements. We will be neighbors, not subjects or enemies." Her broadcast ended with a simple statement. "We choose peace, but we will defend our freedom if necessary." The Human Defense Forces, under the command of Captain Mirai, began activating ancient defensive installations hidden throughout the system. Massive weapons platforms that had slept for millennia came online. Shield generators powered up around human worlds. Military ships moved into defensive positions. Captain Mirai stood in the command center of the main defense station. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and short black hair. She had spent 20 years in the human military and had studied every battle strategy in their archives. She knew they couldn't win an extended war against the Empire, but she could make any attack extremely costly. "Status report," she ordered. "All defensive platforms are online," her second-in-command reported. "Shield coverage is at 90% and rising. We have 300 military vessels ready for deployment. The civilian population is evacuating to underground shelters." Mirai nodded. "Good. The Valdran will expect us to be weak. Let's show them otherwise." Meanwhile, Jiwan prepared for the most important diplomatic mission in human history. She selected a negotiator named Kyungmin to lead a delegation to the imperial homeworld. Kyungmin was a patient man in his 40s, who had spent years mediating disputes between human colonies. He had a gift for finding compromise where others saw only conflict. Do-hyun volunteered to join the delegation as a cultural liaison. "I've spent time with the Valdran," he told Jiwan. "I understand how they think. I can help." Captain Mirai also joined the delegation as a military observer. "The Empire respects strength," she said. "If they know we have a competent military leader, they might take us more seriously." The human delegation traveled to Valdros Prime aboard a diplomatic ship. The journey took 3 weeks. During that time, they studied Valdran culture and prepared their arguments. They knew they were walking into danger, but they had no choice. This was humanity's chance to avoid war. When they arrived at Valdros Prime, they were struck by the sheer scale of the imperial capital. The planet was covered in massive cities that housed over 50 billion Valdran. Orbital platforms surrounded the world, each one large enough to dock 1,000 ships. Military vessels patrolled in endless formations. "This is what we're up against," Mirai whispered to Do-hyun. "One planet in their empire has 4 times our entire population." "Then we better be very convincing," Do-hyun replied. They were escorted to the Imperial Palace, a structure so large it could be seen from space. Inside, they walked through corridors lined with statues of previous emperors. Every statue seemed to glare down at them with contempt. Finally, they entered the throne room. Emperor Draxion sat on a throne made of black metal. He was ancient, over 400 years old, with scales that had turned almost white with age. His forearms rested on the armrests of his throne, and his eyes studied the humans with cold calculation. "So," the Emperor said slowly, "you are the humans who think they can defy the Empire." Kyungmin stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Your Imperial Majesty, we seek not to defy but to coexist. We ask only for the right to govern ourselves in our own system as we have done for thousands of years. Your system exists in Imperial territory, Draxion said. Therefore you exist at Imperial pleasure. You will submit or you will be destroyed. Those are your only choices. With respect, Your Majesty, we believe there is a third choice, Kyung-min said carefully. We can be allies instead of subjects. We can share our technology and knowledge with the Empire. We can establish trade relations that benefit both our peoples. All we ask in return is recognition of our sovereignty. Draxion laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the throne room. Allies? What could primitive humans possibly offer the mighty Empire? Before Kyung-min could respond, a Valdran general stepped forward from the crowd of Imperial officials. Your Majesty, these humans are not primitive. Our research teams have analyzed their technology. In some areas it matches or exceeds our own capabilities. The general was named Corvus. He was a war hero who had led many successful campaigns. His scales bore the deep red color of the warrior caste, and scars covered his arms. He looked at the humans with undisguised contempt. However, Corvus continued, I do not believe we should negotiate with them. We should crush them and take their technology for ourselves. The Empire does not make deals with insects. Kyung-min kept his composure. General Corvus, we are not insects. We are people, just like you. We have families. We have dreams. We have the right to exist. You have no rights except those the Empire grants you, Corvus said coldly. The meeting ended without agreement. The humans were given quarters in the palace while the Emperor considered his decision. That night, they gathered in their rooms to discuss strategy. The Emperor will never agree to our terms, Mireille said. His pride won't allow it, and General Corvus wants war. I could see it in his eyes. Then we need to find moderate voices in the Imperial government, Kyung-min said. Not everyone can want war. There must be Valdran who see the benefit of peaceful relations. Doyun sat by the window looking out at the Imperial city. We're in way over our heads. One wrong move and they'll kill us all. His words proved prophetic. The next evening, as the delegation prepared for another meeting with the Emperor, armed Valdran soldiers burst into their quarters. But these soldiers wore unmarked uniforms. They weren't Imperial guards. You're coming with us, the lead soldier growled. General Corvus sends his regards. It was an assassination attempt. Corvus had decided to eliminate the human delegation and make it look like they had been killed by anti-human extremists. With the diplomats dead, the Emperor would have no choice but to order an attack on the human system. But Corvus had underestimated his targets. Captain Mireille reacted instantly. She grabbed a chair and threw it at the lead soldier, knocking his weapon aside. Then she swept the legs out from under another soldier with a precise kick. Do-hyun, who had learned basic self-defense during his time in the Cargo Pilot Corps, grabbed a heavy datapad and smashed it into a soldier's head. Kyung-min, despite being a diplomat, fought with surprising skill. He had trained in martial arts for years as a hobby. The fight lasted less than a minute. The human delegation subdued all 6 soldiers without serious injury. Mireille quickly searched them and found communication devices linking them directly to General Corvus. We have proof, she said, holding up the devices. Proof that a high-ranking Imperial general tried to murder us. They immediately contacted Commander Vrenix, who had become an unofficial ally. Vrenix had been sending them information about internal Imperial politics and had warned them about anti-human sentiment among certain military factions. Vrenix arrived within minutes, bringing loyal Imperial guards with him. He examined the evidence and his expression grew grim. This is treason. Corvus attempted to murder official diplomatic guests. The Emperor will have to execute him. But when they presented the evidence to the Emperor the next morning, Draxion surprised everyone. General Corvus is a war hero, the Emperor said. He has served the Empire faithfully for centuries. I will not execute him for one mistake. Kyung-min couldn't believe what he was hearing. Your Majesty, he tried to murder us. He tried to start a war through deception. Perhaps, Draxion said, or perhaps he was simply defending the Empire from a perceived threat. Regardless, I will not punish him severely. He will be reassigned to a remote post. That is my decision. Vrenix spoke up, his voice shaking with anger. Your Majesty, this is unjust. The activation sequence began at exactly noon, Galactic Standard Time. Across hundreds of star systems, thousands of stabilization nodes hummed to life. Energy fields spread outward from each node, creating a web of stable space-time that stretched across the threatened regions. In the command center on Taeyang Prime, Jiwan watched the displays with held breath. Beside her, Grand Admiral Thexus stood rigid, his forearms crossed tightly. Everyone in the room was silent, waiting to see if the network would work. For several long moments, nothing happened. The dimensional fractures continued to spread. Stars continued to collapse. Then slowly the fractures began to slow down. The tiers in space-time started to seal themselves. The cascade was stopping. It's working, Hajun's weak voice came through the communication channel. The network is stabilizing the affected regions. The collapse is ending. A cheer erupted in the command center. People hugged each other, humans and Valdrin alike. They had done it. They had stopped the destruction. But the celebration was cut short when medical scanners detected Hajun and Somin's condition. Both scientists were dying from radiation exposure. Their ship limped toward the nearest medical station, but everyone knew they wouldn't make it in time. Do-hyun volunteered to take the fastest ship available and intercept them. I can get there in 4 hours. Maybe we can extend their lives long enough to reach proper medical facilities. Go, Jiwan ordered. Do-hyun pushed his ship to maximum speed, racing through space toward the dying scientists. When he reached their vessel, he found them both unconscious, their bodies shutting down from radiation poisoning. He transferred them to his ship's medical bay and administered every treatment he could. It wasn't enough. But as they approached the medical station, a Valdrin medical ship joined them. Aboard was a team of specialists led by a doctor named Urim, who had studied human biology specifically to help with the Alliance. We have experimental treatments, Urim said, developed for extreme radiation cases. They've never been tested on humans, but at this point we have nothing to lose. The treatments worked. Slowly, painfully, Hajun and Somin began to recover. It took 3 months of intensive care, but they both survived. They would bear the scars of radiation exposure for the rest of their lives, but they were alive. During their recovery, the galaxy changed dramatically. Emperor Draxion, faced with overwhelming evidence of the collapse and the success of the human-Valdrin cooperation, was forced to reconsider his position. Many Valdrin worlds had openly defied his orders to support the Alliance. His authority was crumbling. In a historic address, the ancient emperor made an announcement that shocked everyone. I have ruled the Valdrin Empire for 300 years. I have seen our civilization grow and prosper. But I have also become rigid in my thinking. I failed to see the value of cooperation. I nearly destroyed us all through my pride. He paused, his ancient voice carrying across every Valdrin world. Therefore, I am dissolving the Empire. In its place, I propose the formation of a Galactic Cooperative Council, a union of equal civilizations working together for mutual benefit. The Valdrin will join as the Valdrin Commonwealth, one voice among many. And I invite humanity to join as well, not as subjects but as full partners. Jiwan accepted the invitation on behalf of humanity. The first meeting of the Galactic Cooperative Council took place 3 months later, on a neutral space station built specifically for that purpose. Humans and Valdrin worked together to establish laws, trade agreements, and mutual defense treaties. The changes went deeper than politics. Dr. Hunwoo and Melkris established the Joint Sciences Academy, a research institution dedicated to combining human and Valdrin knowledge. Students from both species studied together, learning from each other's perspectives. Human engineers shared their advanced energy manipulation techniques with Valdrin manufacturers. Valdrin industrial capacity helped humans expand beyond their isolated system for the first time in millennia. Trade flourished. Cultural exchanges began. Slowly, the two civilizations were becoming one society. Not everyone was happy with the changes. Some Valdrin still believed in imperial superiority. Some humans feared that opening their system would destroy their unique culture. But most people on both sides recognized that cooperation had saved them from extinction. The stabilization network required constant maintenance. Teams of human and Valdrin technicians worked together, monitoring the nodes and making repairs when necessary. The network had stopped the collapse, but the threat could return. Eternal vigilance was needed. Hajun, recovered enough to work again, led the monitoring efforts. He developed early warning systems that could detect new dimensional fractures before they became dangerous. Salman, working beside him, designed automated repair systems that reduced the need for dangerous manual interventions. They both received the highest honors from both civilizations. But when asked about their heroism, they were modest. "We just did what needed to be done," Hajun said. Anyone would have done the same. Do-Yun, the cargo pilot whose chance encounter with a Valdran scout ship had started everything, returned to his simple life. But his roots now took him across both human and Valdran space. He carried goods between worlds, facilitating the trade that bound the civilizations together. He also had a new co-pilot. Vrenix, granted full pardon by the new Valdran government, had chosen to continue working with the humans. The former Imperial commander found peace in the simple work of cargo transport. He and Do-Yun became close friends, sharing stories during long trips between stars. "Do you ever regret it?" Do-Yun asked during one flight. "Giving up your career to help us?" Vrenix considered the question. "No, I gave up a career built on oppression and fear. What I gained was much more valuable. Purpose, friendship, the knowledge that I helped save billions of lives." Captain Mirai, promoted to lead the Joint Defense Force protecting the stabilization network, built a military that combined human tactical innovation with Valdran strength. The force existed not to conquer but to protect, to ensure that both civilizations could live in peace. Jiwan served as the first human representative on the Galactic Cooperative Council. She worked tirelessly to ensure that human voices were heard in galactic affairs. She negotiated treaties, resolved disputes, and built bridges between cultures. Under her leadership, humanity emerged from isolation to become a respected voice in galactic politics. Grand Admiral Thexus, having defied the Emperor to save his people, retired from military service. He spent his remaining years writing a comprehensive history of the crisis. His book, The Cost of Pride, became required reading in schools across both civilizations. It detailed how close they had come to destroying each other, and how cooperation had saved them. In the book's final chapter, Thexus wrote, "We discovered the humans in a forgotten civilization hidden behind a stellar shield. We thought we had found primitives to conquer. Instead, we found people who taught us that survival requires more than strength. It requires wisdom, cooperation, and the willingness to change." 5 years after first contact, a ceremony was held to commemorate the anniversary. Representatives from both civilizations gathered at the site, where the first stabilization node had been deployed. A monument was built there, listing the names of everyone who had died during the crisis. Hajun and Sumin, still recovering but alive, unveiled the monument together. The names of the crew members who died when fractures destroyed their ship. The workers killed in construction accidents. The 3 ships lost during Corvus's failed attack. Everyone who had sacrificed for the greater good. Jiwan gave a speech that was broadcast across both civilizations. 5 years ago, we were 2 separate peoples. We knew nothing of each other. When we finally met, we almost destroyed each other through fear and pride. But we learned, we grew. We chose cooperation over conflict. She gestured to the monument. These people died so that we could live. They showed us that our similarities are greater than our differences. That together, we are stronger than apart. Today, we are no longer just humans or just Valdran. We are something new, a galactic community built on mutual respect and shared purpose. The collapse brought us together, but it is our choice to stay together, and we choose unity. The crowd cheered. Humans and Valdran stood side by side, applauding together. In that moment, the divisions that had once seemed insurmountable felt very small. After the ceremony, Do-Yun stood with Vrenix, looking up at the stars. "Remember when you first stopped my cargo ship?" Do-Yun asked. "You thought we were some unknown threat." Vrenix laughed. "I remember. I was so confused. You just sat there in your ship, calm as anything, like meeting an Imperial warship was completely normal. I was terrified," Do-Hyun admitted. "I just hid it well." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Vrenix spoke again. "What do you think happens now? Where do we go from here?" Do-Hyun smiled. "Forward together. We've survived the impossible. We've stopped a galactic catastrophe. We've built something new.